Hello everyone, I'm Ji and welcome to the newsroom where we bring you the behind-the-scenes look on how we deliver the news to you. As always, we're going to go straight to our Hwang Sung-hee for a quick rundown of some of the top stories that made headlines this week. Sung-hee, hello.
Hi Ji-hye, I'm here at the Bank of Korea today, and the reason why I'm here is for the announcement for this month's monetary policy. So why don't I begin from there? The Bank of Korea has cut the nation's key interest rate by 1/4 percentage point to 3%. The first rate cut in 13 months comes as an attempt by the central bank to combat the global economic slowdown. Park Jiwon, who is the daughter of former President Park Chung-hee, officially announced her presidential bid this week. The frontrunner of the ruling Saenuri Party is making a bid to become Korea's first female president. In a deepening crisis weakening President Lee Myung-bak's political leverage during his last remaining months in office, his elder brother has been jailed on corruption charges, while the parliamentary leadership of his party resigned. Foreign ministers from the 10 Southeast Asian nations and their 3 Northeastern counterparts, South Korea, Japan, and China, convened their annual regional meeting this week. The key issues on the agenda included recently increased foreign exchange reserves between the two sides and extending long-term cooperation. There were some mixed figures on the job front as the country's jobless rate inched down in June, while the youth unemployment rate hovered at nearly 8%. But there was a sign of easing price pressure in the nation as Korea's producer prices, a barometer of future consumer inflation, grew at their slowest pace in nearly 3 years, mainly due to falling international oil prices amid the global economic downturn. In an attempt to tackle soaring household debt levels, the Korean government is set to implement a new credit rating system designed to bring poor credit borrowers back into the commercial banking system, where they can get loans at lower interest rates. 24-year-old golfer Chen Ayan sailed to victory for her first major and 6th career LPGA Tour win. This at the same course where Park Jiwon won the Open in 1998, a victory that inspired Che and many other young Koreans to try to make it on the women's tour. Well, that's all from me for now. I'll be back with more news next week. But for now, back to you, Ji-hye.
Hello guys.
Hi.
Hello, Ji-hye.
Hello, Ji.
It's been another eventful week here in the newsroom. Let's start with you, Haneul. What kept you busy all this week?
Well, there's been reports of the Rim of the Pacific exercise, which is better known as RIMPAC, which is the largest international maritime exercise initiated by the U.S. And this year, 22 nations were participating, which is the largest it has held in scale so far.
The USS Nimitz is a supercarrier in the U.S. Navy, one of the largest warships in the world. On board, there are around 40 F-18 Super Hornet fighter jets standing by, alongside 4 AWACS surveillance aircraft and Lynx combat helicopters that are ready for action. Washington is seeking to increase its military presence in the Asia-Pacific by deploying 60% of its advanced Navy fleet to the region, up from the previous 50%. As part of the strategic pivot announced by the Obama administration early this year. China, whose naval buildup has been cause for concern among its neighbors, has been excluded from the drill, and it is not happy, saying that the U.S. is using the exercise to show off its military strength.
China and Russia has been excluded from these exercises, but this year Russia and India was invited for the first time, so which kind of leaves the analysts thinking that China is the new, target for these exercises. Although the U.S. officially denied these, ideas and said this is not targeting any specific country, it's a regular drill that they conduct between different countries. But they said that there are some there's some limitations of how much the People's Republic of China military can observe in terms of U.S. military. So they were talking about some these military sensitivity issues for not involving China, but
it's quite obvious. I think I can imagine from China's side, but they have the second largest navy in the world,
right.
But they're sort of excluded and isolated from this world's massive maritime exercise. They must feel bit left
Yeah,
out.
if you look at it in the big picture, the Obama administration announced earlier this year that they're going to increase the naval fleet in the Asia-Pacific region, and this has been agitating China a lot. But China has been also really flexing their muscle and building their naval forces in the Asia-Pacific region. They have a new aircraft carrier that they're, tried and tested, and they're in operation. Although there's been no official announcement of it, we all know that they have an aircraft carrier. There's been some, maritime disputes in the islets, the territories in the South China Sea. So, some analysts say that China is really, threatening its neighbors, while, so there are also like two sides of the story.
So since Korea is included in this exercise, is this going to affect Korea in any way?
I guess this kind of reinforces the alliance and the allegiance that Korea has with the United States and its naval forces. And, this is showing that we are part of this group of nations that are, working towards peace in the Asia-Pacific region. Another topic that the Korean reporters were interested in was the naval base in Hawaii, because as you know, there's been some controversy in Jeju Island for building a naval base in Jeju, while the defense ministry is saying they're going to turn this into not just for the military, but for commercial use as well. And a great example of that is Hawaii. The port in Hawaii is used for military purposes and for commercial reasons, for cruise ships to dock.
So a balance of this tourism thing going on with this whole military stuff. I mean, I cannot imagine that happening in Jeju. I mean, since we have so much opposition, the residents are out there protesting still, I believe. So yeah, maybe the reporters must have learned something from it. So let's go on to Myung-Kil. All right, Myung-Kil, your in-depth report on technology said was quite intriguing. Can you tell us more about it?
Yes, as you know, Korea is one of the most advanced countries in leading the IT techs. And of course, this is not something that's really shocking, because this whole technology theft has been going on for more than 5 years. And within the 5 years, there were nearly 200 cases. The actual number is 189 cases. And it's not the first time Samsung and LG, they were robbed or leaked of the technologies. Key display technologies from Samsung and LG were leaked overseas through a subcontractor, presumably to a Chinese display giant, according to reports late last month. Prosecutors indicted 7 officials from Orbotech Korea, the Korean subsidiary of an Israeli firm specializing in display testing equipment. The officials stored the images on portable memory cards like this and slipped them into their shoes, belts, and wallets to avoid suspicion, or had USBs specially designed like credit cards. The stolen information was likely relayed to the headquarters in Israel and to Chinese and Taiwanese display manufacturers. Orbotech has called the allegations groundless. According to the National Intelligence Service, 189 cases of industrial espionage were detected between 2006 and 2010, and the number of cases continues to increase.
But I think it's just shocking to the fact that the state-of-the-art technology gets in the wrong hands.
That is true.
Yeah, and what is the company or the government trying to do about this? What are they doing to tackle this issue?
Well, the government itself, what they're trying to do is they're trying to make some laws towards actually trying to protect more of the nation's core technologies. So they're trying to put into some kind of statute or ordinance of this technology is perceived as a nation's core technology. So if another firm or if some entity tries to like steal that or leaks that technology, they'll be like punished much more severely than what it is now. So currently what they're punished is like under like 10 years of imprisonment, or like they're fined less than $500 million, which is just like petty amount. So they're trying to like sort of increase that amount, heighten the level of punishment. So that's what they're trying to enforce.
I see. Did you have a hard time talking to people from Samsung and LG?
Yes, actually it's quite difficult because the government officials or like like people associated with like preserving or protecting the technologies, they were actually much more very happy to like give us some interviews and give us some insights. But the people in the companies, they were sort of very much more conservative because you know the litigation is still ongoing, and you know they don't know what the outcome will be, although they know like which company was responsible for it, because it was the same company in 2010 and 2012 which were responsible for this tech theft. So but the company itself, they were very sort of conservative. So I try to like ask them, you know, please give us an interviews. You know, it's not something that you guys did wrong. You know, you're representing our country, so you know you should speak up. I know, but it seemed they're very careful.
Maybe they don't want to make it into such a big media hype to kind of protect their company's image. And
so I think they were sort of like expecting more from the government to take some kind of much more further leaps in order to protect our.
I know the U.S. is taking really strong measures, and especially Apple with their assembly line in China, Foxconn.
That is so true,
they really, you know, cut every assembly line into minute little compartments, so nobody knows what exactly they're making
Yes, that is true.
until the very end when the orders come in to prevent leakage.
Yeah, good point. I mean, domestic companies, I mean, for their part, they need to protect them, you know, come up with stronger measures or a security operation of some sort to, you know, try to prevent this from recurring again.
Yeah, I know. Going to the wrong hands.
Yeah, the wrong hands indeed. Right, Jiun, similar cases here, IT, but how can we leave out game industry here? Can you tell us more?
Korea is such a leading country in IT technology and IT industry, and game is one of the most productive industry in Korea. Actually, many people think that Korea's K-pop exports is very huge, but you know that game exports is 12 times higher than K-pop exports, and like 80 times higher than movie exports.
Really?
Wow.
So game.
I never knew that.
Yeah, many people don't really realize, because people think about when they hear about games, we all think about the game addictions and those side effects of the games, but actually it's cash cow industry. So we think the Korean government is really love this industry and wants to support more. But the thing is, Korean government is trying to regulate this huge industry because of too many people are spending too much time on gaming in Korea.
Because of the social side effects of this, of the gaming industry. We've heard some news reports about, you know, parents abandoning their infants
just
because
to play
so
games. I
addicted
know,
to
playing
play
games,
That's just psychotic.
that is very
Also,
psychotic.
some of the game materials involve a lot of violence, so maybe they think it's not a very good influence for kids. And
could trigger violence, unnecessary.
But what these game experts say, that those violent games are not for children actually, that's only for adults. But these children, they steal their parents' ID number and they try to do it. So game companies say there are so many good educational, even though it's a little bit addictive, it's not very harmful as that. But the thing is that these people do not really do games under some certain protection. So that's why Korean government is trying to make some measures to protect these kids. But the thing is, those experts from game industry and those who are outside of game industry says the real problem is not the games. Game is a phenomenon, it's not the cause. The cause is that Korea's young generation do not have many cultural infrastructure to enjoy. So that's why the cultural ministry tries to support to have more arts teachers and more cultural centers in our neighborhood, so that children have more space and time to have leisure time. In these days, you know, Seoul is such a complex city, and we do not have much like soccer fields. We
need more green in the city, I think.
We really need green, and we need leisure activities other than games. So to protect these kids, we have to make more infrastructure for this young generations spend their time.
Yeah, well, lots to do on the list. I mean, of course, parental guidance is one thing, but self-control. I mean, from the children's point of view, of course, that's much needed as well. And of course, like you said, more of these alternative activities that people can, do other than sitting in front of the computer. Of course, all valid points. Very good. Let's see how that pans out. Great, Ji Myung-Kil, Hanu, thank you very much for being here today and for your input and contribution. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi, my name is Connie. I'm a reporter for Arirang TV, and today we are going to go to an event hosted by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Rain or shine, we're here at the Bongsa Temple, and today I'm meeting with the 19 honorary consuls. They're here to experience the Buddhist monk culture of Korea. So the 19 different honorary consuls that I'm meeting today, they represent Korea in their home countries, and they either deal with Korean government affairs or cultural affairs or investment purposes. Today, I'm going to focus on maybe 2 individuals, traveling with them and hearing about their experiences and their connection with Korea. I asked the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade to give me the profiles of the individuals who are invited, and one person is from Bangladesh, and he has had a long-standing relationship with Korea, business-wise and culturally. So what you just answered right now is great. You can briefly explain why you're here today in Korea?
We know Korea has a very modern technologically.
Perfect. 감사합니다. Yep.
자도시장 촬영하신다고 하셨는데
네, 그 촬영은 닫아오면 되고
지금 올라가셔야 돼. 10분 전이거든요.
네.
I mean from my heart.
Thank you. This is your heart. It's a one-of-a-kind paper flower. We're gonna head out before the whole group moves, and so we're gonna maybe get lunch and then go on to the next destination. Right now we're at the Moon Guest House, which is the traditional Korean house from back in the day. The honorary consuls are trying the hanbok, which is the Korean traditional attire. Very interested in how these foreigners will be able to handle making this spicy Korean dish, and or how they'll take the smell even. So I'm very interested in their reactions and their whole experience in making kimchi.
Good. Perfect. Okay, how about you do these two? No.
I wanted to interview Jim, one of the honorary consuls, because as a foreigner, he's working with Koreans, and also he has 2 children who are Korean. He adopted them in the early 1980s, and so I thought he had a very interesting story and an interesting background with Korea. In the days to come, the honorary consuls will also visit. Today we went to a Buddhist temple, and we are here now at the guest house, Hanok Village Home, and so I hope, I get good stories. I can pull together all the different stories that I heard today from the honorary consuls and make this a nice article, a nice package for tonight's news program.
Well, we have about 5 months to go until the presidential election here in the country, and throughout this week there's been a number of developments on the political front. So for more, we're going to go to our Ji Myung-Kil, our political correspondent, standing by at the National Assembly. Hello, Ji Myung.
Hi, Ji-hye.
Well, it must be crazily hectic over there with the candidates from both the ruling and opposition parties announcing their bids for presidency. Can you tell us the latest?
The biggest news was the Saenuri Party's presidential frontrunner Park Geun-hye officially announcing her presidential bid in Yeongdeungpo Times Square in Seoul. And here she said that if she's elected president, she will try to make a country where that invests in the happiness of the ordinary citizens. And another big news was the ruling Saenuri Party's, or the Gyeonggi Province Governor Kim Moon-soo, announcing that he will indeed take part in the ruling party's primary. While this means it's a 5-way race for the ruling Saenuri Party with Kim Moon-soo, Park Geun-hye, and the other 3 candidates. And as for the main opposition Democratic United Party, it's actually going to be a 7-way race for now, with 7 candidates having announced their candidacy so far. And some of the heavyweights include the DUP's Moon Jae-in and Son Hak-kyu, who are busily traveling across the country to reach out to voters.
I mean, it could be too early to tell, but how do you think things will pan out in the near future?
Well, I believe I mentioned earlier that Park Geun-hye is actually leading the polls, but the attention is now on whether popular software mogul An Chol-soo will run for president. And actually, in some of the hypothetical presidential races, Park and An are neck and neck according to these races. And if he does decide to run for president, things are going to probably change around a bit. At this point, DUP's Moon Jae-in is also someone to keep an eye on, because he is indeed the presidential frontrunner for the opposition camp. And as for some dates, the Saenuri Party will hold its presidential primary next month, August 20th, while the DUP presidential candidates will be touring across the country before they elect a single presidential candidate on September 23rd.
Well, Ji Myung, thank you very much for your time and talking to us.
Bye, Ji-hye.
Handling and
그리고 다음 거 지원 Bye. 잠깐만 다시 할게요.
24-year-old girl, 왜 이러지? Bird ad. 잠깐만. 여보세요, 선배.